So I have my setup right here. I have my MPC Live Mark II going into the 404, coming out of the 404 into the analog heat straight to you guys. We're going to be sampling off of vinyl. I got my AT-LP60 right here, Audio Technica, which is an awesome record player. If you guys want any links to anything that I'm using, including these cables, so many people ask, where do you get those cables? I'll be leaving the links down in the description, so make sure you guys check those out. It does help out the channel a bit, so feel free to check that out if you guys want any links to the gear that I'm using right here. I'm going to be chopping up a sample, and in this video, I'm going to be focusing on this method that I've been using when it comes down to chopping up samples. The method that I'm going to be going over is just using the 16 grid slice mode within the MPC. I'm not going to be manual chopping. I'm just going to be kind of letting the MPC do its thing and see what it gives us and work with that. Sometimes you can find some really good gems when you let the MPC do its thing. And I like doing this method when there's no drums or there's no percussion in the records that we're going to be sampling. So let's go ahead and have some fun. All right, so right here we have the sample. I just kind of set like a down or the starting of the sample, which is going to be right here. We're going to be going from trim into chop mode, and in chop mode, I'm not going to be chopping this up manually on the downbeat. I'm going to try to play it like, perfect timing. I'm not going to do that. In this method, I'm going to just go into regions and tell the MPC to slice this up into, let's go into 16 regions, which is already in 16 regions, or you could actually even go up into 32 regions. And what that's going to do is going to create 32 slices. I do not have any idea the type of downbeats is going to give me or the slices that is going to give me. This is the magic of doing this region chop mode. I actually don't even know if there's a name for this, but if you guys can see, I put 32 regions, which is going to be 32 chops, is going to fill up bank A, bank B, actually bank A and bank B. And let's kind of see what it came up with before I convert this into a program. All right, I'm going to go ahead and convert that, hit do it. It just created these 16 region chops. The cool thing about these MPCs is that you could always go back in, even though you created this sample program or drum program, and you could readjust the start point of these slices that it created. Like, you do not have to commit to these chops versus in the older MPCs, whenever you created these zones, that's what it was. And you cannot go back and readjust the start point. But most likely, I'm not going to go back in and re-chop this up. I'm going to just leave it the way it is. You know what? Before I start putting this down on the grid, I'm actually going to go into an empty track, which is going to be track 2, and I'm going to use some drums. I'm actually going to call up some just a drum break so I can lay this down and I have some type of groove to play with as I'm experimenting with those chops. So I'm actually going to go into my browser. I'm going to go into my sample pack volume 1. In my sample pack volume 1, I have some drum breaks that I have right there in the folder. Most of these drum breaks are at 80 beats per minute, 75. It doesn't really matter what beats per minute we're going to be at with these drum breaks because we can switch that up later. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and call up some of these drum breaks and see which one we're going to stick with. Okay, this drum break is at 80 beats per minute. I'm going to go ahead and lay that down on the grid. All right, once we have that going, 80 beats per minute, the sequence is at 80 beats per minute. Let's go back up into the samples that we just created. And I'm going to go into my program editor and drop this down at about -4 semitones. All right, so this is what I'm talking about. Like, you create this 16 grid mode, it throws random chops. They're not, like, there's no downbeat on this right here. You know, it's got some empty space right there. Like, it's got some empty space before any sound comes in, which I actually like that because it kind of creates this offbeat sound with the instrumentation or the sound that's coming in with those drums. That could play very nice. Now, what I could even do is experimenting. I'm actually in my program editor, but I'm actually going to go into my samples and make sure that you're in current sample, and we can even reverse. All right, let's see. It's just weird sounds that are being triggered. I'm actually going to go ahead and record that right here on the grid. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and just double length this. Now it's going to be 4 bars. And let's go into the second, the last 2 bars and record these right here. Okay, so right here we have just a drum break with the sample chops that we just laid on top of that drum break. Notice that I'm not chopping up this drum break. You guys can slice up that drum break into a bunch of pieces and reverse certain elements within that drum break. But if you're that person that I was mentioning in the beginning, you could also just lay down that drum break, use that as inspiration as you're building your track. And if maybe later on, once you have the foundation put together, if you want to go ahead and use your own one-shots, go ahead and do so. But if not, go ahead and leave those drum breaks. They sound very good. So let's keep going. And another thing that I actually wanted to mention, and this might work with the sample right here. This sample, it's got like the transients of this sample are very accented. There's actually this plugin that I was just messing with not too long ago. I think it's under Dynamics, and not air pumper, is actually air transient. Air transient is pretty interesting. I'm actually messing with this, and this is probably going to sound good with this. I'm not sure. But what this is going to do is going to adjust or manipulate the transients of this sample. Now, if you don't know what transients, what is the meaning of a transient, what it is just the initial peak of audio. Those peaks, those are called transients. So right here, you can make those peaks a little more, accentuate those peaks that they have a little more of an accent. Let's go ahead and hear this. I'm gonna go ahead and make this obvious. It's making those transients a little sharper. So this is just very staccato. Sounds very dry like that, but the cool thing about having this manipulation with your samples is that you could even go in and let's actually go into our mixer and let's send that sample right here. Let's go ahead and send it into send 1. Actually, before I send anything to send 1, let me go into from programs into your returns and go into return 1. We can go ahead and jump into our reverb and go to air verb. Let's go ahead and use this air verb is at 100%. Pre-delay, let's put this at about 30. And now let's go back into our program. And right here where our sample's at, we're going to send some signal to that reverb. And it's just going to complement that sample really nice since it's got those peaks. Yeah. I'm going to leave it right there. I'm gonna go back to this plug-in, the transient, and bring it down a little bit. Okay, so we have something going on right there. Before I start adding anything, I guess the creative side of this beat, there's 2 parts of this process for me. There's the building part where I'm just kind of figuring the sample out with my drums and I'm putting a sequence together. Once I have this idea, which right now we have it, I have my drums and my sample and I feel like it's going to head somewhere good, but it could just go all downhill from here if it just doesn't work out, which is fine. But right now I'm going to bring in the bass line. Once I bring in the bass and I have my drums, bass, and sample, I'm able to start using the SP404 for some of the sounds that it has and start getting creative and start building my mix once I have this main skeleton put together. Again, doesn't always work out. Like right now, I feel like it's heading good, but it just might not work out. So let's go into track number 3 and let's name this bass, and let's call up a bass sample right here. Damn. All right, cool. Again, I'm using MSX Audio Bassline Volume 1. There's some really, really cool bass lines right there in that sample pack. So a link down in the description if you guys want to check that out. I'm going to jump into the sample editor, and this bass sample, it's a whole entire performance, as you can see there, but I don't want that performance. I just want this initial note or hit. All right, so this is the only hit that I want. I'm going to go into 16 level mode and put it on tune. So now I can perform that bass line. So it's my instrument now. You guys can put that in a key group, which would be better if you put that in a key group because you have a little more flexibility in your grid editor page, and you're able to manipulate just the pads that you're hitting a little better. But me, I'm okay with the 16 level. I'm gonna go ahead and stick with this. I'm not gonna get too fancy with my performance right now. So right now that I have this idea and it's sounding really nice with now that I brought in the bass, now I start little by little going into my analog heat or my SP404 and start digging up for a certain type of texture to my overall beat. This is very powerful for me, and this is why I enjoy bringing out or bringing in external gear to my workflow, because it just adds this certain sound to my overall mix where it glues it together to make it sound like one track. And I know it sounds kind of funny for me to say that, but there's been so many beats that I've heard that the drums sound great, but they sound like they're right here. And then the sample comes in and the sample sounds like it's over here. And then the bass synthesizer is like somewhere down here. Like there's just separation from these elements that just does not click. They sound great by themselves, but it's just not coming together nice. But when you have something like an SP404, the analog heat, it just glues everything together, giving an overall color to all these elements and putting them together. I'm gonna go ahead and just, right now we're just running signal through the 404. I'm gonna play back the beat and see what we can dig up within the 404. Ooh, okay. So all right, so lately I have my signal chain right, or my master signal chain right here, which I really been liking this, which is a cassette simulator in the 404 vinyl. We're gonna hear it without it, and then I'll bring that in. This kind of crunches everything up. Go ahead and turn that off right now. Now that I have this texture going on, I don't know if you're able to notice the difference, but it's a very minor difference. It should not be a night and day difference. If it is a night and day difference, that means it's just flipping your whole entire beat into a whole different idea. But what this is doing, it's not as clean. The sounds that I'm coming up with right here with the 404, they're not a clean, perfect sound. It kind of degrades my entire signal in a way, but I like the sound of it. It doesn't always work for all of my beats. As a matter of fact, right now that I'm listening to this, it might not work out for me. If it does not work out, it's fine. I'm still using the beat repeat or the delays, some of the effects that this has. I might just go ahead and end up using, what is this, Air Flavor Pro. I'm actually liking Air Flavor Pro more than the SP404 for those sound textures, the textures that I've been coming up with. As a matter of fact, you know what? Speaking about Air Flavor Pro, I'm going to actually jump into my master bus here. And let's go ahead and call up this insert on the master channel. And I'm actually going to go into my presets folder. And here in my presets folder, I actually have this plugin preset. And this is a preset that I came up with. I named it Cassette Simulator because it was something that I was trying to emulate from the SP404. And I was kind of going side by side, trying to compare it and trying to match it to the 404. But I think after using this for such a long time right now, I'm liking this Air Flavor Pro a lot better. Probably because of the flexibility that it gives you. Let's see how this sounds. Right now, we're not listening to anything coming from the 404. We're actually just gonna play it without any of this preset, and then we'll engage the preset and see how it sounds. Yeah. I'm gonna bring down the vinyl just a bit. All right, so this is what I'm talking about. I'm actually gonna stick with it. Like, it's not. Yeah, I like this a lot better. Air Flavor Pro it's hot, man. Like I'm enjoying this a lot better right now. It's so funny because I'm bringing in the 404 and I'm trying to dig that sound that I was looking for in the beginning, but just real quick, when I popped this open, I already knew I liked this a lot better. The Air Flavor Pro, just to touch up really fast, I like this because there's so much customization within one plugin without you having to put different types of plugins and fill up your whole entire master chain. You could have everything right here in a click of a button. Like right now, I engaged this and I felt like the vinyl noise was a little too much. So I can dial this back down. Now, I spent time and I went in and I customize everything right here, from my distortion to this blend to this volume, the digital and timbre. I went ahead and just dialed it down as much as I could to the 404. But after some experimentation, I realized that I actually like how this sounds a lot more, to the point where now I just save that as a preset, build up my beats, and just call up this preset, and it just pops up right here, and it just sounds really good. If I have to make minor tweaks, I can go ahead and do that on the fly, but it just gives me a good starting point. Now, the 404 is still useful. I'm still using the 404 a lot because when it comes down to performing your effects, there's nothing like the 404 as of right now. The MPC has the XYFX that's really good if you don't have a 404, but if you have a 404, it's just a lot more fun to perform your effects using the knobs up here. It just, I don't know, it just feels a little different for me. It's a different experience. There's times where I just get the 404 and just start writing effects, and I just have fun. Like it's part of my enjoyment, I guess. Sometimes they just don't sound that good, but it's fun to interact with your music the way I'll be interacting when I have all this plugged in. This actually came out really nice. I'm actually digging this. I feel like this sounds really good. This is something that I didn't know if this was going to work out before putting this video together, but I hope you guys enjoyed this, and thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate you guys always being right here, and much love. I'll catch you guys on our next video. Peace.